All right, Mark, how are you today?
Yeah, very well, Stuart. Very well. Hot.
Long time no see.
Yeah, been busy, and you've been busy as always.
What have you been up to?
Well, I've got family over at the moment. I'm in a house with 7 Chileans, which is always fun because my daughter's graduating from school today,
Okay,
so
good,
that's a
good,
big
good.
deal.
Yeah, so all of the families come over from Chile.
Yeah, they've all come over. They've kind of combined her graduation with a holiday. They're all over the place, all over the world. So they've kind of all met up here in the south of Spain, which seems to be a lovely part of the world to do that.
Fantastic. Now, we've got some things to talk about. You mentioned the airport situation. There's been a bit of talk in recent times. It's sort of gone out of the news now. The cycle has broken, as they say. But there was talk here in Madrid that the Madrid airport was being a homeless refuge. The airport was trying to, or the airport operator was trying to do something about it. The Madrid government was trying to do something about it. It was the typical thing where nobody wanted to accept responsibility. But the fact of the matter was that people are sleeping rough at the airport. Probably because it's some type of neutral ground. Nobody asks questions. Maybe you're a traveller, maybe you're sleeping rough, who knows? And you told me that you went to Malaga Airport and you saw the same thing.
Well, Malaga Airport is a short train ride from the city centre of Malaga, and I believe a few homeless people have been sleeping at the airport. But I've been coming back and forth a lot over the last month, and I've noticed a lot of familiar faces in the same kind of areas. Now, I went to pick up part of my Chilean family from the airport about 10 days ago, and they arrived about 11:30 at night. And when I got to get to the arrivals gate, we weren't allowed in the building. The security had blocked the doors, and then anybody who was arriving had to walk out the building to be greeted. And I was told by one of the security guards there was up to 100 homeless people had been sleeping at the airport, and they were doing it to stop them going in. If that worked or not, I don't know.
Well, that was the policy they adopted in Madrid, I think. That was the agreement they came to, was to shut the doors at 11.
Yeah.
And if you were flying out, or you were allowed to obviously to enter the airport if you had a late flight, and people that were with you were also allowed to enter the airport, but everybody else was off limits. So you're saying that there were 100 people inside the airport when they shut the doors already?
Well, I've heard various reports. I mean, some people say there's 50 people sleeping rough at the airport. I've heard over 100. I would imagine it's somewhere between 50 and 100. But I've flown back and forth in the UK probably 4 times over the last 6 or 7 weeks, and you do notice a lot more sleeping bags and a lot more kind of like in corners. People are kind of hovering around. But I think it's the same as in Madrid. A lot of these people seem to be working, but living at the airport because they can't afford accommodation. So I think they maybe look as a short-term thing to get ahead, so they got some money to get into an apartment. I don't know, but it is very peculiar.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, there's documentaries galore on the internet about this issue in the States, probably in the UK as well. I don't know, but I know that the States has had an issue with this called the working poor, people that were working in jobs, service industry jobs or cleaning jobs, things like that, not earning a very high salary, not being able to afford accommodation, which had gone through the roof, sleeping rough in their cars or wherever they could, going to work, every day.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about mental health issues associated with homelessness, but I mean, are we getting that bad here in Spain, Mark? Do you reckon?
I mean, to touch on what you said just then, I know there's people who sleep in cars and vans in London already, and I presume it would be the same here in certain areas. But I do think people are struggling here, and I know several people who live in kind of caravans here already, because they say it's just cheaper and easier, but they keep getting moved on by the police. So I think a lot of the time that's not by choice; it's probably forced on them because they want to live here, but they can't afford to do it. But the Spanish situation, I think, is getting worse and worse here.
Yeah, yeah. I know a lot of people at the Madrid airport were said to be recent arrivals to Spain, people that have come from South American countries maybe, and are trying to get their trying to get started here. Not easy, considering the job market. And let's be honest, Mark, low-end jobs don't pay a lot, right? And with the high cost of living, the high accommodation issues that we have in big cities, Malaga especially, Madrid, Barcelona, with all of the the people kicking up a stink about the housing crisis. We're dealing with an issue, I think, and not an easy one to fix, because the cost of living just doesn't go down overnight. The cost of accommodation doesn't go down overnight. Salaries, unfortunately, don't go up overnight. You know what I mean?
Well, I was just on my way back from the gym now, and I thought I'd just pop to the local supermarket. And I didn't go to a big supermarket chain. And I was only picking up a couple of yogurts and some bread. But I noticed they'd almost doubled in price because obviously they're more touristy areas. And obviously the owners suddenly thought, well, you know what? I could probably put a lot more money on this. And prices are going up. There are, I think you said it on one of your videos. I think 2 million South American immigrants have come into Spain over the last 2 or 3 years to fill in gaps in the job market, and of course, there's lack of places to live.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a problem with various fronts, right? So you've got the immigration issue, and the European Union said this the other day. They put the warning at the European Union, as you know, Market puts out all of these things that countries should do according to their recommendations. And one of the things they said was fix the housing crisis because it's going to stop the immigration flow, which is fundamental to Spain's economy because a lot of Spanish people are hitting the retirement age. There's no one to fill those jobs. So in order to keep this pension system functioning, we need active workers, right? And if there's no accommodation for people, they're going to go somewhere else. Where people go nowadays, I don't know, because it's not an easy world out there. You don't want to go to some countries, Mark, because you could be sent to El Salvador. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. I mean, I told you, I sent you a message recently about a couple I know who rented the place. But before I tell that very amusing story, I speak to a lot of our older Spanish people here because the time I go to the gym and to the swimming pool I go to, there's a lot of older generation. I love talking to them about life and things like that. And there's one guy I talked to at the weekend, a guy called Juan, and he lives in a big townhouse and has 2 flats. And I said, "Oh, do you rent your places out?" He goes, "I won't rent them out anymore. I don't want to rent them out. I prefer to have them empty." He goes, "Luckily, I've got my mother-in-law on one of them because she can't live in land with the heat over the summer. But I prefer to wait for the government to change before I rent them. I'm scared to rent them out." Someone else I spoke to who was Spanish, said, "I will only rent to foreigners because they pay and they pay more." Right. And then to sum it up, which I sent you a very amusing message about a week ago, I spoke to this couple and they rented something on a 10-month contract because they had to move out in July and August because the landlord said his family were coming in, which they now realize the
With
guy's renting
summer
out
rental.
yeah, summer rental because they seen it listed. And I said, that's terrible. And I asked them how they paid their rent and how much they paid. I think it was 1,500 they paid for a 2-bedroom flat, which is extortionate. But they paid half in cash and half in a bank transfer. And I said, well, that's not unusual here. And he said, yeah, but the guy's job is
Okay, I might have to cut that part out. We don't want we don't want any problems in the going forward with the. That's it.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, everybody does it. I mean, I don't want to talk about the government problems that are all over the paper at the moment, Mark. But you can see that it's monkey see, monkey do, right?
Definitely.
This is if they're at the top, we all want to get in on the act, right?
I've never known a time that so many Spanish people I know have been so anti-government. And I said to somebody the other day, I was hoping to use the punch bag in the gym. And he goes, I'd like to use the punch bag as long as you put Pedro Sanchez's face on it. And I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, I've never known such an anti-feeling towards government as I know at the moment.
Yeah, well, according to him, he's not going anywhere. But as I say, I don't want to become too political, Mark. Now, moving on, we haven't got long today. We're on a time limit. Now, there's been some. I thought about you a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it was last week. I'm not sure when it was. I think it was the night of the Champions League final. So probably a couple of weekends ago. A couple of lads were gunned down while enjoying a pint of Carling or Guinness. I think it might have even been Guinness. Maybe it was at a bar in your town, right?
Yeah, just literally 5 minutes from where I live. It's very, very. I mean, very horrendous thing to happen in so close to where you live. But basically basically two, I believe. Connected guys from somewhere in Scotland were spotted there, had a connection with the bar, and someone obviously gave them the nod, and they came along and shot them, which made international news.
Yeah, so let's put this out. This is not a frequent occurrence, right?
No, I mean that's the sad thing about that kind of thing, that it does go viral, it does make news because those kind of stories do make news, but it's not like that here at all. Those kind of things are they may happen every now and then, like it does everywhere. But I would say where I live down here on the Costa del Sol is pretty safe in
Yeah.
general.
So if you're a tourist planning a trip to that part of Spain, you don't have to worry about getting your white T-shirt splattered in blood and a huge dry cleaning bill, right?
I I would give them the personal guarantee that in the 23 years I've lived here, I found this to be generally a safe place. Of course, you have areas that you wouldn't go to, and there's times of night and times of and certain areas that you wouldn't go to, but it's like everywhere, really. But in general, it's very safe.
Now, I said I thought of you because you used to be a bar owner. That's on the record. Everybody who watches these videos and your channel's videos as well, we'll give that a plug at the end because
Mm-hmm.
you're still cracking away. I think at the YouTube channel, right?
Still cracking away. Keep on going.
So you as a bar owner, let's say that you've put out the terrace, your big night, you've got the Champions League final on, you're expecting all of the punters to come in, then all of a sudden gunshots are heard. Two of your clientele have been gunned down on the terraced area, the outdoor seating area. I mean, what would that sensation be for a bar owner?
Well, I think it'd be obviously terrified to start with. I mean, you'd hope you wouldn't have those kind of people frequenting your establishment in the first place. I mean, one of the things you do is to make an establishment that doesn't really attract a certain type of person anyhow. But the place that where this happened is still shut. I mean, I
Oh,
don't
it's
think
still
they.
shut. Okay.
Yeah. I drove past it this morning, and I don't think I'm not sure when it will reopen again. I mean that will just destroy that business. I mean, if those people were generally connected, that the name of the bar was the same name as one of the people who got shot.
Oh, really?
And I'm not sure if there is a direct connection. There might be. It might be a family connection, but I don't think it would do much good for that business because it has made news internationally. I had people sending me messages from the UK. Is it safe to travel to Spain?
So that were Scots that owned the bar, were they?
It was I don't know. There's this kind of trend here and on the coast at the moment having an Irish bar, and the Irish bars don't seem to be owned by Irish people. I mean, there's a few which are owned by Irish. It's the Irish theme bar package they get, and they build it and they do that. But I think we got 6 in our neighborhood at the moment, which is bizarre.
Yeah, those bars are all over Spain, right?
Yeah. I mean, I went to visit someone in Torremolinos who was there for the night. I hadn't been there for probably 15 years. And on the seafront there was like 3 or 4 Irish bars, which weren't there before. It's like, I don't know what they buy them. They buy them at IKEA and just spit them out. I don't know.
I don't know. It might be a franchise operation. To be honest, I've got no idea. Here in Madrid, there used to be quite a lot. I think they've dropped off in numbers in recent times, but I remember they used to be like. Obviously, you used to get your English speakers going in there because you could watch the rugby, you could watch the Premier League, you could watch all of the sports, the cricket if you're into that, and because it was like an Irish pub, you'd also get your Spaniards going in there as well because it was like a type of novelty, right?
It's a good marketing plan because the Irish pub is a famous thing around the world. But there's one here, quite a famous one, which is now shut down. And you walked in, and they had a huge picture of the England World Cup winning team on the wall of an Irish pub, which you wouldn't be like going to an Australian pub and having a picture of the New Zealand rugby team. It's just not done. So it shows you that a lot of these places aren't owned by Irish because that definitely wouldn't be happening in a real Irish pub.
Oh no. Well, maybe if they were from the north, I don't know. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? I mean, yeah, it's a novelty. It's probably, yeah, as you said, you buy a franchise or a package or something like that. You fit it out. You look at the market probably and say that you're going to try and attract both types of clientele. Your Spanish night goers and also your internationals as well that just want to get a pint of a beer that they're accustomed to.
And what I'm noticing here, I've been quite critical of it. It seems to be the Spanish are being forced out somewhat. From my experience in Torremolinos the other night and from the seafront here, there don't seem to be many Spanish-friendly type venues anymore. I mean, I met an ex-customer of my bar in one of those Irish bars last night, not the one where the shooting occurred, obviously. But every person in that bar was either Scandinavian, British, or Irish. There wasn't one Spanish person in there. So I'm not sure if they feel. I mean, fair enough. The woman behind the bar was South American, so she spoke Spanish. I spoke Spanish with her, but it didn't seem very appealing to your local Spanish. They had Sky Sports News on the TV. It was all British music. So I don't know. It seems to be a trend here, and I do feel sorry for the local Spanish because they must feel a little bit isolated in many ways, which seems strange in their own country.
Well, I saw that when I went to the Canary Islands the last time in where did I go? Lanzarote, I think I went to, and there were. I mean, people have said, "Oh no, that's a tourist area. You got to expect that type of thing." Yeah, but a tourist area. Surely locals could also go there and expect to be able to order something in their language, and I was with my partner and we walked past the place, and it's the typical place where they're touting outside, and they're trying, but they don't. You walk past and it's like, 2 for the price of one. They speak English directly to the people walking past, and
the signs a lot of the signs are done in only English.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's exactly right, and the majority of people going to those places are probably from the United Kingdom. I think Lanzarote's number one tourist source is the United Kingdom. But if you are a Spanish person, I made this comment at the time, you're probably thinking, where can I get my type of food?
So we here down on the Costa del Sol, the Spanish tourism is very important in July and especially August. So it's going to be interesting to see how that is now, because the chiringuitos, the beach bars, are very expensive now. They've almost turned into restaurants rather than beach bars. So they've outpriced a lot of the locals. There doesn't seem to be many local bars where you can drink. My ex bar was one of those establishments where Spanish were welcome and catered for the Spanish. But it makes you understand why there is a little bit of resentment now towards the foreigners here, because it reminds me a little bit when I arrived in 2002.
Yeah. I heard a story once. A guy's brother opened a bar in a town called Torre del Mar, which is on the other side of Malaga where you are, right?
Yep.
And it was an English speaking oriented bar. And he put a sign up thinking that he was saying that he didn't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And the sign said, Español no.
No. God.
And for people that don't know what that means, if you put Español no, it means no Spanish.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
But people would look at that. Spanish people would say, what? Spanish people aren't allowed in this bar? You have to say, no hablo español or no se habla español, right?
Yeah, definitely. But there was a bar below me years ago, and they were there for 5 years. And when Spanish people would sit on her terrace, she would go, no, upstairs, go upstairs. The Spanish bar's upstairs.
Really?
We don't want you. No. Yeah, and you're like, and I remember arriving once as she was doing this, and these people came upstairs and they had a couple of Baileys and a couple of whiskeys. I mean, they spent like 25 euros, and you'll think they're turning that kind of trade away.
Yeah, well, I mean, this guy obviously did it because he didn't want to have to deal with the language issues, right? But putting a sign up in a foreign country saying that the locals aren't welcome, whether it be by mistake or not, is a pretty bad mistake to make. But anyway, now
you see there are a lot of things like that happen, and it people. What I'm frustrated with people putting signs up or not speaking the local language. If that happens in their own country, they're the first to complain.
Well, imagine you walked into a bar in England and it said no English on the front door. How would you interpret that?
People go into meltdown. They've been making all our favorite newspapers and TV channels, I imagine.
Exactly. But anyway, now, Mark, I've got to wrap it up. It's been a pleasure as always. We'll have another talk. Now, your channel, Life in Spain Unfiltered.
Yep.
Still going strong. We're going well.
We're going well. We've got trying to get some more interviews lined up and things like that. Trying to move the content around, but taking it outside. But that seems more difficult than previously planned. I always tip my hat to you when you're driving around in your car and stuff like that. And
yeah, well, you got to get.
Yeah, it's always noise and interference. There's always seems to be someone drilling very close to where I'm trying to record.
You got to put up with the noise. That's exactly right. So I'll wrap it up. Been a pleasure, and we'll be in contact.
Yeah, great to speak to you, mate.
See you later.